G'day and welcome to Talking Aussie Farming. I'm Jono Weinstock, your host from FarmCap. Great to be here where we talk all things Australian agriculture with interesting insights from fascinating people around Australia. Today we've got a very special guest, Stephen Commadeur from FTI Consulting. Steve's also a mate, but very interesting person, having grown up on the land and has a unique mix of skills on farming and professional life, helping farmers around Australia. One of the cool things on his LinkedIn profile were the words genuine paddock knowledge, which I think was quite unique. Welcome, Steve, to the show.
Thanks, Jono. Good to be here.
Excellent. Steve, just to get to know you, I'd be keen to understand your initial farming family background and I guess how that progressed into, professional services in ag.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good start. So I actually come from, on both sides of my family, come from farming stock. So the old man, he's Dutch. He grew up off market gardeners in Holland. They came out during the mid to late 50s and went straight into dairy farming in Gippsland. On the mum's side, they were wool growers in southwest Victoria. Pop was a soldier settler. So ag's always been in my blood. I grew up on a dairy farm in northern Victoria. Right. I was passionate about ag from a young age, and probably in my early high school years decided that I knew what I wanted to do at university, and that was to study ag science at Melbourne University. Mm-hmm. And followed through with that. And that was the start of my professional. Well, that's the basis for my professional career in ag.
Great, that's a great foundation. So you moved to the Big Smoke in uni, and then talk us through your professional career to where you're at today with FTI.
Yeah. So, obviously studied ag at Melbourne University, and I was on college there. So I actually lived with a lot of the people that I studied with, which was, and they were all from all around Australia, really, from a lot of family farmers. So from after studying uni, sort of worked with a small firm and were sort of active in the managed investment scheme sector. So I was analysing and researching those projects. Did that for about 3 or 4 years, and then, like a lot of people, young people did, or still do, I hope, took a couple of years and travelled around the world, backpacking and the like. And during that time, worked on farms in England. Which was terrific.
Would have got up to some mischief there, I'm sure.
A fair bit of mischief, backpacking particularly. Okay. But we won't talk about that. And then got back to Australia. It must have been the late 2000s, and basically went into asset management for a while, which was managing farms on behalf of overseas pension funds and high net worth individuals. Before transition across to professional services or corporate advisory. So moved with transferred across to a company called PPB Advisory. So it was sort of that they were quite active in the restructuring market and just the general corporate advisory area. And that sort of set the basis for what I do now. So spent probably 4 or 5 years there, went across to PwC where I worked in mergers and acquisitions. I was there for 5 years and moved across to FTI Consulting in 2020. So always worked in ag in those different businesses.
Gotcha. I guess it's quite a unique mix of skills, understanding from the ground up to working with both families and corporates. Keen to understand at FTI, I guess, your role and what kind of problems you solve for both families and corporates.
Yeah. So I might just backtrack and I'll talk a little bit about FTI and then we can move from there. So FTI Consulting is it's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So it's one of the biggest corporate advisory firms in the States. Has offices all around the world, including 4 or 5 offices in Australia. There's 500 people at FTI in Australia. Within those 500, there's 10 of us that are dedicated
specialist
to
ag. That's
specialist
right. Okay,
ag.
So large firm, and you've kind of carved out a specialist niche.
So Ben Waters, one of my colleagues in Sydney, sort of started the agri practice about 12 years ago. So I sort of followed in his footsteps, and we're a really strong team that provides a broad range of services to quite a broad range of clients. So I can break it into the different buckets of work. So the first bucket is what I'd call transactional work. So that's providing buy-side due diligence to to various pension funds and superannuation funds and high net worths that are looking to, I suppose, invest in Australian agriculture. So it's really interesting work.
Okay.
So mainly commercial and financial due diligence that we provide.
So that's helping a large investor acquire an asset and invest into an Australian agricultural business, and they need help with boots on the ground.
Yeah,
identifying
and being that conduit between the capital and actually knowing what makes sense from an investment point of view. Yep. So that's the first bucket. The second bucket is also transactional, but it's more sell side and capital raising. So that's where we actually work with farming businesses or processing businesses. I suppose looking to realise parts of their business or bring outside capital in to enable growth and or assist with succession planning. Okay. So it's a really interesting line of work, and where I think it's what I probably enjoy doing the most, because you can really feel like you're providing real value to Australian agriculture.
Okay. So that's like, just to break that down, that's like a farming family who's sitting on a significant amount of land and assets.
Yeah.
And they'd like to take some money off the table or sell down accordingly to be able to maybe keep some of the assets in the family and plan for I guess.
And it's probably bringing outside equity in to fast track growth
as well. Okay.
Yeah. So it's actually, and no two jobs are ever the same. It's quite unique in terms of what the structure looks like, but that's a really interesting line of work.
Okay. And sorry, what size transactions or what kind of size farms
it's a good
are
question.
we talking about?
Good question. I mean, we've been involved with files anywhere between enterprise values of 10 million all the way to 200 million.
Right.
So it's quite at probably that mid-market sort of level.
And are those still a lot of families who still hold assets of that size, or is it more corporates?
It's one of the. I mean, I've been in ag for 40 years, and it's probably the biggest thing that I've seen in the sector is the increased consolidation within the sector, that means that individual farming businesses are much bigger than they once were. And although corporates have taken the corporates are a lot more active in the space now, family farmers still dominate the landscape, and those family farming businesses are now much bigger than they once were.
Gotcha. Okay, so there's value in consolidation.
Yeah,
and there are some benefits of expanding through acquiring. Yeah. No, that's really interesting. I guess what I'm curious about, there's roughly 150,000 farms listed in Australia. I wonder how many are families versus corporates, and where that's going to change in the next generation.
If you looked at I haven't looked at the numbers, but if I looked at the numbers, from a number perspective, if there's 150,000 farmers, there's probably 149,000 family farms and 1,000 corporates.
That's true.
But in terms of the area of land that is managed by corporates versus family farmers, I mean, that it's much, that weighting towards corporates is obviously a lot heavier. Now, I don't know the particular breakdown, but it's probably not an accurate picture looking at it that way either, because a lot of the corporates are active in Northern Australia, where a large pastoral or station country, I suppose.
That's true.
As opposed to your more intensive operations in Southern Australia, which is still much more family farming dominated.
Gotcha. Okay, so we talked about, I guess, the buy side and the sell side. You mentioned, are there any other divisions or sectors that you work with?
The third bucket is turnaround or restructuring. So this is an interesting work stream where we assist family farmers or agricultural businesses and or their key stakeholders navigate challenging trading conditions. We'll go in there and try and map out a plan for these businesses to, I suppose, turn around. And it's really, really interesting work. And then, if you extend on that, there's a sort of sub bucket there where we also at FGI do formal insolvency work. Gotcha. So when farming businesses are we assist in realising and managing those businesses when needed. So
Steve, I guess you've been in a privileged position to look at a range of farming businesses, some who are thriving and successful and growing, and others who've experienced challenges financially. Keen to hear your thoughts and share some experience of let's start off with maybe farmers who've run into challenges, what are the common themes you've found with those kind of businesses?
Yeah. So, John, I'm going to generalize here a little bit, so please keep that in mind. But some of the common themes from the poorer performing businesses that we come across from time to time is probably from an operational perspective, their decision making isn't supported by any modelling. It's very back of the envelope, and which means that they're flying blind really when they're making big decisions. From a capital perspective, a common theme is that they're probably too highly geared. So meaning that it's a bit of a ball and chain, particularly if climatic conditions go against them or trading conditions go against them. There's just not that buffer.
There's no more buffer. So if something goes wrong,
Correct.
They're struggling to meet their obligations.
And then on the flip side, the better performing businesses, or what I'd say the top 20% operators in each sort of segment, the common themes are that their strategic decision making is backed by business plans. It's backed by modelling. It's supported by third party independence. And from a capital perspective, they've got an appropriate gearing level. So they've got enough gearing that that promotes growth and accelerates growth within the business, but balanced, not high enough debt that they're exposed in times of difficult or challenging trading conditions.
Gotcha. Okay. I guess what we find fascinating as well is still seeing literally napkin cropping plans on paper, and there's not a whole lot of financial literacy at times, and probably an area for improvement. Are these serious sized businesses that are still operating like that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Definitely pockets of them. Yeah. But what I've seen, I've been in ag since a kid, right? And definitely increasingly, as your younger generation come back to the farm, they're a lot more, I suppose, financially literate. So we're increasingly seeing more business plans being put together and less back of the envelope decision making, and that's only going to increase as a transition between the different generations. That's
true. I guess the challenge is also factors that are outside of farmers' control, so external weather events, pricing. You understand a bit of soil science. You studied ag science as well as finance. So I guess how do we break down the difference between factors that are external versus kind of operational challenges?
That's a really good question. That's something that we grapple with when we're looking at a turnaround or situation. And I suppose there's always going to be climatic issues arise, or there's always going to be a dip in prices, and it's about farming businesses being able to mitigate those risks, from a feed perspective, or from a climatic perspective, ensuring that that there's 12 to 18 months worth of fodder in reserve, so they can deal with a difficult year. The only thing I will say about that is, if you look at parts of Southwest Victoria, they've had 2 really tough years. It's really hard to mitigate against 2 consecutive tough years. The other aspect is floods and bushfire. They're very hard. You can't predict those. Yeah. And when you're looking at farming businesses that are affected by those events, they're very much outside their control.
Gotcha. So it sounds to me there's only so much farmers can mitigate risk, but the key learnings, I guess, in helping farmers mitigate is, one, financial literacy and good planning. And just being prepared for challenging times.
Yeah, and I think it's a debt thing as well. Yeah, I mean, it's really making sure that when there's a climatic event or there's a price fall, businesses that are highly geared, they're naturally the ones that are most exposed, and that's a really key thing.
Yeah, keen to see what you think. So you've been in farming now quite a while, since growing up to today, and you've seen quite a bit. What are the critical things you've seen that have changed, say, in the last generation to today from when you grew up? And I guess, where do you think things are going in the next 20 years? From what I research and understand, it's kind of a game of incremental gains.
Yeah.
Land prices have kept going up. But keen to see what you've seen on the ground.
That's a good question. Yeah. I mean, I think I touched on it earlier. Probably the the biggest change has been the consolidation and the increased scale of family farms now, or corporate farms as well. So that's been, and it's probably, when I was growing up, farming was as much about a lifestyle as it was about running a business. That's all changed now. It's very much a business, and it's become a lot more sophisticated. There's a lot more data used in decision making, and we're definitely increasingly seeing that a lot. The use of technology is much more common now, and that's in terms of going forward. I think you're going to see a lot more AI. The technology is going to keep on changing. So in terms of if I use some examples, horticulture, I reckon in 20 years most fruit is going to be picked using robots rather than labour.
Gotcha. It's just not quite ready yet, from what I understand.
Yeah,
it's trials
there's a few businesses that we work with that are trialing it and getting closer. But if you look at dairy, for instance, robotic milking systems are becoming more prevalent now. Where robots are going to dominate the landscape in dairy in the 20 years, I'm not sure. I still think there's probably a role for your traditional rotaries and herringbones. But in terms of, from a cropping perspective, I think, the use of technology is going to really drive those efficiencies in spray application, fertilizer application, et cetera, et cetera. So
gotcha. And I guess what does that mean for the bottom line? I think it means hopefully fewer input costs. And more accuracy with precision to maximise yields.
Yeah,
but
correct.
At the end of the day, they're still exposed to weather and price.
Yeah,
so those are the
correct.
factors that are somewhat outside. And land prices, do you have any views on what you've seen? Farmland keeps going up. It's a nice asset class.
Bit of a controversial topic there. I mean, land values are definitely, they've grown exponentially over the last 20 years. Now, I think there's been a bit of a reset in the last 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's on the back of probably some more challenging seasonal and trading conditions across most of the sectors. Going forward, who knows? I still think you're going to see some growth. But, I think land values have reached a point where I don't think you're going to see the same exponential growth as we've seen in the past.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think there's only my view is I think it's been remarkable, the growth. I think what underpins land values is the ability to grow food.
Yeah.
So I was on stage the other day presenting, and I was going to auction off a loaf of bread to go, how much would you pay if this was the last loaf of bread available? So you'd be surprised what people are willing to pay. So I think global food security is what drives it. It's more than yield off the land. So I think that forever will hold its value. Time will tell. I think pockets of broad acre, I think can only go up to a certain level as well. So now we're seeing farmers with, and there's a limit to how much a farmer can earn off the land. There's only so much they can borrow. Which is why historically and to date farmers have remarkably low levels of debt. Which they can draw on during tricky times. And I guess that's part of the gap that we help fill. But as debt continues to rise against those farms after 2, 3, 4 consecutive seasons, that's when I guess they call us and possibly call you to say, hey, we need a helping hand. Can we help them get back to manageable debt levels? No, it's a nice real estate class. And Australia produces, I guess, world-class food and fibre, which I think holds the real estate sector in good stead.
No, 100% agree. I think if I can just expand on it, I think the world isn't making, the globe isn't making more land, but I think there's certain industries that are becoming much more intensive. So tomatoes is a great example, or cut flowers, whereas back in the day they were grown in a paddock or a field. Now these days, increasingly they're grown in glass houses. So I think that's another big change we've seen in agriculture is that really intensive ag is became increasingly common.
That's true, and it's efficient and the scale.
Correct.
And requires a bit of capex at the start, but we do see a few of those institutional investors going into that sector at the moment. Keen to talk about some of your, I guess, interesting experiences on farm. You've travelled the country. I have, you've seen a lot. Are there any kind of quirky, interesting stories or experiences you've had?
I mean, plenty of encounters with wildlife and snakes and the like. But I think from a, I mean, one of the quirky things with me is I've actually got an identical twin brother. He's
What's his name? Just so we know.
Mick Commadeur.
Mick,
So,
gotcha. So this is Stephen. This is not Mick. Just letting everybody know.
yeah. So
Mick,
Mick
if
is
you're watching.
so Mick actually he had a similar passion for agriculture and studied alongside me at Melbourne University. He went down the commodity trading path, whereas I went down sort of more the corporate finance or corporate advisory pathway. But wouldn't go a week where I'm not walking down the street and someone will go, "G'day, Mick, how you going?" So plenty of awkward moments, particularly at industry events. I've actually, I don't think I've been to the Australian Grains Conference for the last 4 or 5 years, just because I just want to, they're always awkward moments, and I was trying to save myself from those.
There you go. I'm sure Mick's been called Steve a few times as well.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
While we're on your twin brother here, so I believe you're a bit of an athlete, cricket, footy. I've got to ask you, who's the better athlete?
I wouldn't say. I think you're underwhelming sporting career, but I guess from a cricket, I mean, I'm passionate about my cricket and football, and also love my rugby and rugby league. But from a sporting perspective, I'd like to say that I was just a little bit in front.
Had him covered. There you go.
Yeah, from a cricket perspective, I was a bowler. Mick was a batsman, but definitely had him covered from a footy perspective.
There you go. I'm sure some pretty handy backyard jewels.
Yeah, there was.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a few fisticuffs along the way as well. So
okay, well, it's nice to know you guys are still both, I guess, active in ag. Any other stories on farm you want to share?
Geez, probably if I look back at the memory
snakes.
bank.
I mean, I haven't stepped on a snake just yet, thankfully.
Yeah,
but
if I look at the memory bank, probably the one that comes to mind is probably a people-related thing, and actually early in my corporate advisory career, must have been the first couple of weeks when I entered that area. We had an interesting file where we were engaged by the courts to assist in dissolving a partnership between two brothers. As part of that engagement, I had to go and spend some time splitting cattle, so splitting some black baldies between the two brothers.
right.
Anyway, there might have been 50 heifers, and anyway, 49 of them were in not bad condition, and there was one that just, it was on its last legs, and by coincidence, this not by coincidence, but this one beast went to one of the brothers who was crazy. When he found out that I'd sent or directed that animal to him, he got out a cattle prod and striked me in the nether regions.
Jeez.
And then tried to punch me in the face with a closed fist. I didn't get her out of the way of the cattle prod, but I missed the fist, ducked that, and just in time for a farm worker to come and tackle him. But he was crazy. But that's
lucky the shotgun didn't come out.
Yeah. Well, that was always a risk. But I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, I've been in farming for a long time, and 99% of people in the sector are great people, and it's probably one of the reasons why I'm still in it. I love getting out to the regions. I talk to farmers on a daily basis. Soul of the earth people. And it's a great sector.
No, I agree, and that is part of the fun, dealing with very down to earth people doing business around the kitchen table, and I can be certain they would really appreciate your knowledge and insight to try and help them. I guess it's nice to walk away when we get older and can say, hey, we actually worked with these families and helped them through lots of interesting times. Now, I guess if I had keen to get your thoughts, if I gave you an open checkbook and you could invest in some farmland or a farming business, where would you go? What region and what type of farming would you?
It's a very interesting question, Jono. I think
you grew up near Shep, in dairy.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think I love my fly fishing and I love my hunting. So I'd like to be in the hills somewhere, maybe in northeast Victoria.
Okay.
And if I look at my background, milking a couple of hundred cows, I'd probably get someone else to milk them. But having a dairy farm on the Ovens or the King River would be just fantastic. I'd just love that.
There you go. Not many people.
But that's the reality then kicks in.
Then the reality kicks in, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
I guess it's a lifestyle choice. Of,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
neighbours in the city.
Yeah, no,
Bit
exactly.
of peace and quiet, and
Exactly.
getting up at 4 a.m. After your
Well,
workout.
Johnny, where would you? I'll flip the question.
Where would I?
Where would you? You've travelled around the country a lot over the last couple of years.
I have. That's true. I've got to say, I'm definitely a city boy, but I love travelling to farms and love a farm stay. I don't think I'll be hiring caravan when it's time, because we've seen pretty much most agricultural regions. Just some quiet, warm, bit of a combination. Probably horticulture, I think, is quite calming and relaxing from a lifestyle perspective, I think. But in terms of if it was pure business, I'm probably not milking cows at 4 a.m. And I don't pretend to be a farmer, but I guess I would probably invest in a diversified pool of farmland across Australia is probably how I would play it if I had an open checkbook. Yeah.
Very smart, John.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Steve, thanks for coming on Talking Aussie Farming. It's been great chatting, and I hope our listeners can enjoy learning some of your experiences and insights. Thanks for coming on the show.
No, thanks very much, John. Great to chat.
Legend. Thanks.